The Night Archive. Some records were never meant to be found. Case File 002. Source: written testimony and witness account. Status: disputed. Case File 002. The following account concerns the death of a man named Hugh Morgan. At the time of discovery, there were no signs of struggle. No wounds consistent with animal attack. No indication that another person had been present. And yet, the body was found in a state that suggested violence. Witness statements collected afterward described something moving in the surrounding brush. Something large enough to disturb the environment. But it was not visible to the eye. These reports were initially dismissed until a journal was recovered. It was believed to have belonged to Morgan himself. The entries detail a growing awareness of a presence he could not see, but could perceive. Not by sight, but by the absence. What follows is a reconstruction of those events, based on the available evidence. Listener discretion is advised. The Journal of Hugh Morgan. There is something in the woods. I do not mean an animal. I have hunted long enough to know the difference between movement and intention. What I have observed does not believe or behave as any creature I have known. It moves. The grass bends as the brush parts, but there's nothing there. At first, I believed it to be a trick of light, a distortion, heat perhaps, something affecting the air. But the pattern is consistent, deliberate. It keeps its distance, always just beyond clear sight. And yet, I'm certain it is aware of me. The Journal of Hugh Morgan has come nearer. I cannot say when the distance changed. There is no sound to mark its approach. No movement I could follow from one place to another. And yet, it is no longer where it was. I tested this. This morning, I marked a section of grass along the eastern edge of the clearing. There was nothing there. I'm certain of that. But when I returned, the grass had been pressed flat, not crushed, depressed, as though something had passed through it without a weight. I remained still for some time after. I had the distinct impression that it was waiting, not moving, not retreating, only holding position, as if aware I was attempting to measure it. I have begun to alter my movements. I do not turn my back to the tree line. I avoid sudden motion, and I no longer remain in one place for long. These precautions feel insufficient, because whatever this is, it does not need to be seen to know where I am. That's it. The Journal of Hugh Morgan. It approached. I did not see it, but I know the moment it did, there was a change in the air, a sound, a pressure, as though the space around me had been displaced. I had been standing at the edge of the clearing, watching the tree line, as I have trained myself to do. And then, the grass before me bent, not outward, not with the wind, but downward, in a line, advancing. I stepped back. It did not stop as the movement continued. It was closing the distance between us. Yet there was still nothing to see. Only the evidence of its passage and the certainty that it had chosen a direction toward me. I raised my rifle, not to fire, but to mark the space, to define where it was. The barrel trembled, though my hands did not. It stopped, not retreating, not advancing, only present. I do not believe it feared the weapon. I believe it understood it. I lowered the rifle, and the grass rose slowly, as though whatever had pressed it, it simply lifted away. I remained where I was for some time. I did not move, because I was not certain that it had gone. I am no longer attempting to measure it, nor to predict it. I am attempting to avoid provoking it. This distinction feels important, though I cannot say why. Only that whatever this is, it has begun to close the distance of its own accord. The Journal of Hugh Morgan. It did not wait this time. I became aware of it only when it moved, not at a distance, not at the edge of my perception, just near, too near. There was no warning, no gradual approach, only the sudden disturbance of the grass at my side, close enough that I heard it, not the thing itself, but the effect of it. It was a rapid displacement, as though something had passed within arm's reach. I turned. There was nothing, only the impression that I had interrupted it, or that it had allowed me to. I moved toward the clearing, not running, but no longer willing to remain still. The ground ahead of me reacted in advance of my steps, the grass bending, then rising again, as if something moved just ahead of me, keeping pace, guiding, or herding. I could not determine which. I stopped. It did not. The movement continued past me, circling, not wide, close enough that I could feel a change in the air against my skin, as though the space itself were occupied. I raised the rifle again. This time I intended to fire, not at a target, but at a position. Force a reaction. I did not fire, because in that moment, I had become certain that it knew I would, and that it had already decided where I would aim. The rifle lowered, not by choice, but because the act of raising it felt observed. The movement ceased. No retreat. No advance. Only proximity. I remained where I was until I could no longer feel it. I cannot say when that occurred. Only that when they returned to what I recognize as normal, I found myself some distance from where I had begun, and I do not recall moving. The Journal of Hugh Morgan. It no longer keeps a distance I can measure. I have attempted to track its movement. However, this is no longer possible. It is not a matter of speed or of direction, only that it does not remain where it appears to be. I have observed the grass bending in one place, while feeling the disturbance in another, behind me, then to my left, then nowhere at all. I turned in place, slowly, deliberately, attempting to identify a pattern. There is none. It does not move toward me, nor away. It moves in relation to me, as though my position is the only constant it requires. I attempted to remain still, to deny it reverence. This was a mistake. The air shifted, not around me, but through me. A pressure, brief and complete. I cannot say from which direction it came, only that it was everywhere at once. I have begun to understand that I am not being approached. I am being accounted for. My movements, my position, my attempts to anticipate, all of it is known. It is no longer moving toward me. It is moving around the idea of me. The Journal of Hugh Morgan. I cannot determine where it is, only that it is not left. There are moments when the air becomes occupied, not displaced, not disturbed, occupied, as though nothing And yet, something shared the same space without requiring separation. I have considered that it may not need to reach me, that it may already have done so. There is no indication of injury, no visible effect. And yet, I cannot dismiss the possibility that the proximity itself is sufficient. I cannot determine its position, only that it no longer requires one. It does not need to pursue me. It is already. Case File 002, Addendum. The journal recovered at the scene ends abruptly. No further entries were found. The body of Hugh Morgan was discovered shortly thereafter. No wounds were present. No signs of struggle were observed. However, the surrounding vegetation showed evidence of disturbance. The grass was flattened in irregular patterns, not consistent with animal movement, nor with environmental factors. The cause of death remains undetermined. No evidence was found to indicate, if anything, was present at the time of death. Case status: unresolved.